What's up, fight fans? Welcome to my channel. This is Johnny, and in today's video we're going to be going over the statistics that nobody talks about when mentioning this weekend's world title fight at 140 pounds between the IBF champion Richardson Hitchins and the Aussie challenger George Kambosos Jr. Guys, before I continue, I want to say thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you to everybody who's been with me since day one. If you haven't already, could you please remember to hit subscribe? Also, like this video. And right now, go down to the bottom of your screen, find that bell notification button, click that so you never miss one of my videos. All right, guys, this week is another week full of boxing. I'll admit, not a lot of names that pop off the paper, but this one in New York is a world title fight. We've already taken a trip to Africa to talk a little bit about the Brandon Glanton fight. We know we're going to see the return of two guys who recently retired, but they're back. Nonito Donaire is fighting in Argentina, and you have Juan Francisco Estrada El Gallo fighting in Mexico. There's a couple other fight cards, but in this video, we're focusing on the Garden, New York City, the main event between IBF champion Richardson Hitchins and the Aussie former world champion at 135, George Kambosos Jr. So in this video, I'm gonna be going over both guys' careers. We're gonna talk a little bit about how each guy goes about their business, what they've been up to regarding their resumes. Also, stay tuned to the end of the video. That's where I'll be going over the Las Vegas odds. I'll also be giving you my prediction and telling you where to put your money. This is a fight between one world champion and a guy who wants to become a world champion in another weight class. You know me well enough to know, if you've been on my channel, I have nothing but the utmost respect for George Kambosos Jr., what he's done in his career, what he's meant internationally for Australian boxing. I also got to give props to his father, Jim Kambosos. If you were to ask me what fighter in this era has had their career managed almost to perfection regarding world title fights, big money fights, and creating a long legacy in regards to the nation they fight from, you'd be hard-pressed to find a guy above George Kambosos Jr. To remind everybody, guys, that one punch, that fight in which he won a split decision, in which he was a huge underdog, the Teofimo Lopez fight, that propelled him to stadium and arena fights here in Australia. I always have to mention it. He fought Devin twice, once at the Kudos Bank Arena, once at the Ron Laver Stadium in Melbourne, and then he fought Lomachenko in Perth at the RIC Arena. Did he win those fights? No. Did he boost his stock and his legacy through losses? Yes. And guys, not a lot of boxers could say that. And in an era where a lot of fighters protect their O, George Kambosos Jr. is the X factor, telling fighters that you don't have to protect the O to get big money fights. Also, the thing George does really well outside of the ring, he could sell a fight. He's very marketable, and this fight is exactly that. He once again gets an opportunity to become a world champion in a new weight class by taking on the current world champion Richardson Hitchins, a guy who won his title by defeating another Aussie, Liam Perro, in a close fight down in Puerto Rico. He won a split decision. If you guys want to revisit that fight, some of the scorecards were crazy. One of the judges gave Perro the fight 117 to 111, and the other two, in my opinion, got it right. I thought Hitchins fought a really smart fight, a really good fight, and that's why he's a world champion. Hitchins is a guy that does a lot of things really well. Has a nice amateur background, had a lot of hype about him entering the pros. He's undefeated, 19-07 knockouts, doesn't have one-punch power. He's going to be bigger, he's going to be stronger, he uses his jab really well, and the narrative of this fight, in my opinion, is will George be able to get past that jab and score points and win rounds? We also know about George, he doesn't have one-punch knockout power. He makes things interesting a lot. He wants to get into a dogfight. He'll take some damage to give some damage. Right now, I want to take a closer look at George and see what he's been up to in his career. Guys, Kambosos is 22-3 with 10 knockouts. Out of 2,740 fighters in the world ranked at 140, he's ranked number 30. He has a career total 189 pro rounds fought, carries into the ring a 45% career knockout to win ratio. His adoring fans know him as Ferocious, and the 31-year-old Aussie is a 5'9" orthodox fighter with a 68-inch reach. We last saw him fight Jake Wiley, 16-1, UD in the 12th. Loma, 17-3. He got stopped in the 11th. Maxie Hughes, 26-5, won a majority decision in the 12th. Haney the second time, 28-0, UD in the 12th. Haney the first time, 27-0, UD in the 12th. And before the Haney double fights, he beat Teofimo Lopez by split decision. And guys, George Kambosos is this guy, when you look at his resume before the Teofimo Lopez fight, He had won split decision after split decision. Some of those fights were against Lee Selby, and another one of those fights was against Mickey Bay. Both fights were really close. Some people even say he lost the Teofimo Lopez fight. I'm not one of those guys. I think he won that fight. And then the Maxie Hughes fight is also controversial. So Kambosos has a record, only 3 total losses. There is some controversy to some of those decisions, but he's not a judge. He does exactly what he's supposed to do in there every time he fights, and George Kambosos Jr. is a fighter. Game plan is definitely going to have to be start off quick. He's going to want to have to take the center of the ring, want to have to score points, bank a lot of those early rounds, and get past that Richardson Hitchins jab. In a little bit, we'll be going over that reach disadvantage he has, and that's going to be an uphill battle for him. He's definitely going to have to answer some questions in order to get on the inside against Hitchins. So right now, let's take a look at the IBF champ. Guys, Hitchins is 19-0 with 7 knockouts out of 2,740 fighters at 140 pounds. He's ranked number 4. He is the IBF world champion. He's fought a career total of 130 pro rounds and carries into the ring a 37% career knockout to win ratio. The 27-year-old American's a 5'10" orthodox fighter with a 74-inch reach. He was born in Brooklyn, New York, and resides in Manhattan, New York, USA. We last saw him fight Liam Paro, 25-0, won a split in the 12th. Lemos, 29-0, UD in the 12th. Zepeda, 37-3, UD in the 12th. John Bauza, 17-0, UD in the 10th. So Richardson Hitchins actually has a lower knockout to win ratio than George Kambosos. What does this mean? That doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't have power. He's just one of these guys that doesn't have one-punch knockout power, and he's comfortable with winning rounds, scoring points, and winning on the cards. Hitchins is the taller guy. He's a younger guy. When I look at both men side by side, one of the statistics regarding the narrative of this fight that jumps off the paper for me is that reach advantage. 74 inches versus 68 inches in favor of Hitchins. You mix that with his style, jab heavy, nice sharp jab, it's quick. He throws a couple versions of his jab. Some guys just throw one angle. He'll level change and throw it at different angles, confuse his opponent. And we know George likes to fight off of that front foot. And as of late, Hitchins fights off of his back foot. So I think that jab is going to be a pretty good telling part of who wins this fight. For George, I think his game plan is going to be simple. He's going to want to have to get on the inside, cut the distance, not fight Hitchins at his range. Has to get past the jab, work Hitchins' body, and score on points. And if he can, land those hooks over the top in the clinch. It's a lot easier said from my position than done from George's position. With Hitchins, taller fighter, younger fighter, longer reach, better jab. I think he's going to be the more physical guy. With Hitchins, though, you really don't know yet, in my opinion, even though he is a champion, what version you're going to get. The Lemos version or the Liam Paro version, in my opinion, was a better version. Also, guys, I want to remind you before we continue, the champions at 140, when we're talking about Richardson Hitchins, how would we rank him compared to Alberto Puello, Gary Antoine Russell, and Teofimo Lopez? I only reference that is because you got to ask yourself, this is for a world title. Even though he's a world champion, can he hold up to those other guys? I'm not quite sure. At 27, he has an opportunity against George to look really good in his hometown. So before we get to my prediction, I want to let everybody know this will be my money line prediction. If you want my method of victory, odds, the knockout, or decision prop bets, you have to stay tuned to my live streams. If you're new to my channel, I go live every single day. So right now, let's take a look at the money line. So right now on the money line, Hitchins is a $1.10 favorite, meaning 100 on him just to win. You get your money back plus $10. The draw is 20-1. George is an $8.25 on the money line, meaning 100 on George gets you your money back plus $725. George is a 7-1 underdog going into this fight. Can George win? I think George can win. I think he can spring an upset. He has to do a lot of things really well for him to win. His path to victory is a steeper climb than Richardson Hitchins. This is no knock on George. I'm a fan of George Kambosos. I've been watching his entire career, like I said. Of all the current Aussie fighters, I think he's done more so far with his career to put Aussie boxing on the international map than any other current Aussie boxer. Does he get the flowers he deserves domestically here in Australia? I don't think so. So I tip my cap to him. I tip my cap to his father. But in terms of my prediction, I have to listen to my father when he told me, Johnny, always bet with your wallet, never bet with your heart. This weekend in New York, I am rooting for George Kambosos to become a world champion at 140, but I'm not betting on him. I do this channel to be as unbiased as possible, and a lot of you guys look at me for my opinion, expert at that. I'm putting my money on Richardson Hitchins. I think he's going to be too much. I think his young energy, even though he's 27, George is 31. George has been in more wars. It's a newer weight class, even though George fought at 140 against Jake Wiley. In my opinion, he didn't look that good. I expect Richardson Hitchins' jab to be on point. I expect to see a better version of him than we saw against Pero, and I do expect with his skill set, with his potential, with the championship rub he has now, I think we're going to see him level up. And like always, I always say on my channel, this is not an echo chamber. Maybe you guys see something I don't see. At the end of the fight, are we going to hear the announcer say, and still for Hitchins or and new for George? Also, guys, if you haven't seen my breakdown, analysis, and prediction of the co-main on this card between Andy Cruz and Hironori Mashiro, stay tuned to the channel because that's coming up right now.